The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the human exploration ship, Pioneer 7. Captain Kim Dae-ho stood watching the endless black space dotted with distant suns. His team had been out here for 3 months now, mapping new systems and looking for planets that might support human colonies. "Captain, we're getting close to the Kepler 442 system," said Lieutenant Park Min-ho from the pilot seat. "Should be there in about 2 hours." Kim nodded and walked over to check their instruments. The ship was small compared to the massive colony vessels, but it was home to his 5-person team. They were scouts, sent ahead to explore new areas of space before the big ships arrived. Behind him, Sergeant Lee Ji-woo was working on communication systems. She was the best at picking up strange signals and making sense of alien technology. Corporal Yoon Hana sat at the engineering station, keeping their ship running smoothly. Private Choi Byul was in the back room, studying samples they had collected from the last planet. These 4 people were more than just his crew. They were his family out here in the deep black of space. "Sir, I'm picking up something strange," Lee said, her voice tight with concern. "There's a large ship about 6 hours away from the Kepler system. Much bigger than anything we've seen before." Kim walked over to her station. The screen showed a massive object moving toward the same system they were heading to. It was at least 50 times bigger than their little scout ship. "Could be a colony ship from Earth," Park suggested, but his voice didn't sound convinced. "No." Lee shook her head. "The energy signature is all wrong. This isn't human technology." Kim felt a cold feeling in his stomach. First contact with an alien race was something every scout team trained for, but hoping for and actually facing it were very different things. "Yoon, can you boost our sensors? I want to know everything about that ship." Corporal Yoon's fingers danced over her controls. "Working on it, sir. Give me a few minutes." The next few minutes felt like hours. Kim had been a scout for 20 years, ever since he was a young man fresh out of the Space Academy. He had seen dangerous situations before, but this was different. This could change everything for humanity. "Got it," Yoon said. "Sir, that ship is definitely not human. The metal composition is unlike anything in our databases. And, Captain, it's heavily armed." "How heavily?" Kim asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "Enough weapons to destroy a small moon," Yoon replied quietly. The bridge fell silent. Everyone understood what this meant. If this alien ship was hostile, their little Pioneer 7 would be like a rowboat facing a battleship. "Sir," Lee interrupted the silence. "They've changed course. They're heading straight for us." Kim's military training kicked in. He had spent years learning how to handle dangerous situations, and his team had trained together for scenarios just like this one. But training and reality were very different things. "Everyone, listen carefully," Kim said in a calm voice. "We follow standard first contact protocols. Park, change our course to avoid them. Lee, prepare a peaceful greeting message and basic mathematical concepts. Yoon, I want you to prepare our defensive systems, but keep them hidden. Byul, get up here and help Lee with the message." Private Choi Byul came running from the back room. She was their youngest member, but she was smart and had studied alien life forms at the academy. "What kind of aliens do you think they are?" Byul asked as she sat down next to Lee. "The kind with big guns," Park muttered as he changed their course. But the alien ship changed course too, staying on an intercept path. "Sir, they're definitely following us," Park reported. "And they're much faster than we are." Kim watched the screen as the massive alien vessel grew closer. It was shaped like a long triangle with weapons bristling from every surface. Even to his trained eye it looked threatening. "Message ready, sir," Lee announced. "Send it," Kim ordered. They waited. The alien ship kept coming. "No response to our message," Lee said after several minutes. "But sir, I'm picking up their communications. They're talking about us. Can you understand any of it?" Lee worked for a few moments, running the alien signals through their translation programs. "Some words are coming through. They keep using terms that translate to primitive and capture and easy prey." Kim felt his jaw tighten. These aliens were not interested in peaceful contact. "Sir, they're powering up some kind of tractor beam," Yoon reported. "It's going to lock onto us in about 3 minutes." Kim looked around at his team. They were all young, smart, and brave. They had signed up to explore new worlds, not to fight aliens. But sometimes life didn't give you choices. "Are we going to run, sir?" Park asked. Kim thought about their options. Their ship was fast for its size, but not nearly fast enough to outrun the alien vessel. They could try to hide in the asteroid field near Kepler 442, but the aliens would find them eventually. They could surrender and hope the aliens were merciful. But the intercepted communications suggested otherwise. No, Kim said finally. We're not running, sir? Biol looked confused. Think about it, Kim explained. If we run and somehow escape, these aliens now know humans exist. They know where our colonies are. They've seen our technology. If they're hostile, they'll be back with more ships. He paused, looking at each of his team members. But if we stay and fight, we can learn about them. We can find out how their technology works, how they think, what their weaknesses are. Even if we don't survive, that information might save human colonies later. Fight, sir? Park's voice was uncertain. We're a scout ship. They have enough firepower to destroy planets. Kim smiled grimly. That's what they think, too. They think we're just helpless explorers. Let's show them that human scouts are a little different than they expect. Tractor beam locking on, Yoon announced. 30 seconds. Kim sat down in his captain's chair and activated the ship's internal communication system. Attention, crew. We are about to be boarded by hostile aliens. Follow Emergency Protocol 7. This is not a drill. Around him, his team began preparations they had practiced hundreds of times but never thought they would actually use. The alien ship had made a terrible mistake. They thought they were capturing helpless human explorers. They were about to learn that there was no such thing as a helpless human. The alien tractor beam pulled Pioneer 7 into the massive ship's docking bay. Captain Kim Dae-ho watched through the view screen as metal walls closed around them like the jaws of some giant monster. They're scanning us, reported Sergeant Lee Ji-woo from her communications station. I count at least 40 life forms moving toward the docking bay. Kim nodded. Emergency Protocol 7 is now active. Everyone remember your training. The ship settled onto the alien deck with a soft thud. Through the walls they could hear heavy footsteps and strange clicking sounds. The aliens were getting ready to board their ship. Yoon, how long do you need? Kim asked. Corporal Yoon Hana was working frantically at her engineering station. 2 more minutes, sir. I'm rerouting power from life support to the defensive systems. Biol, are you ready with the air system? Private Choi Byol looked up from her medical kit. Yes, sir. The compound is loaded into the ventilation system. It won't hurt them permanently, but it will make them very sick and confused. Kim smiled. People always thought medical officers were gentle and peaceful. They forgot that someone who knew how to heal also knew how to harm. Sir, they're trying to open our airlock, Park reported from the pilot seat. Let them, Kim replied calmly. The aliens outside were called Velthani. They stood about 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. Their leader, Commander Veltar, was confident this would be easy. Humans were known to be weak and primitive. 5 of them against 40 trained Velthani warriors should be over quickly. Open the ship, Veltar ordered his soldiers. Take the humans alive. We need to question them about their colonies. The airlock door slid open. The first group of Velthani soldiers stepped inside, weapons ready. They expected to find 5 scared humans hiding in corners. Instead, they found an empty corridor. Where are they? One soldier asked. That was when the lights went out. In the darkness, the humans struck. Kim had spent 20 years learning how to fight in zero gravity, in tight spaces in complete darkness. His team had trained together for 5 years. They knew their ship better than they knew their own homes. Lieutenant Park Min-ho dropped from a ceiling panel behind 2 aliens. His training in zero-gravity combat made him move like a dancer. Before the Velthani could turn around, both were unconscious on the floor. Corporal Yoon had modified the ship's internal systems. She could control lights, gravity, and even the artificial atmosphere from her hidden position in the engine room. When she turned off gravity in one section, 3 more aliens floated helplessly, while Sergeant Lee used her communications equipment to jam their radios. The Velthani had better weapons and armor, but they were fighting on unfamiliar ground against enemies who knew every inch of their battlefield. What is happening in there? Commander Veltar demanded from outside the ship. His soldiers' radio calls had turned into confused shouting and then silence. Sir, we've lost contact with the first boarding team, his aide reported. Veltar could not believe it. Send 20 more soldiers, and bring heavy weapons. But the second group did no better than the first. Private Biol had released her medical compound into the ship's air system. The gas made the aliens dizzy and slow. Their superior reflexes meant nothing when they could barely stand up straight. Kim moved through his ship like a ghost. He had studied alien physiology at the academy. He knew exactly where to hit a Velthani to disable them without causing permanent damage. The humans were not trying to kill their attackers, just stop them. This confused the aliens even more. In Velthani culture, enemies fought to the death. These humans were defeating them but not killing them. It made no sense. "Sir, I'm intercepting their communications," Lee reported over the internal radio. "The alien commander is getting angry. He's talking about using heavy weapons to blast through our hull." Kim considered this. If the aliens used their big guns, they would destroy the ship and everyone inside. But they would also lose their chance to capture humans alive and learn about human colonies. "Can you make them think we're more dangerous than we actually are?" Kim asked. Lee smiled in the darkness. "I'm already working on it, sir." She began broadcasting false signals that made it look like Pioneer 7 was heavily armed. The alien sensors would show weapon signatures that did not actually exist. Meanwhile, Yoon was having fun with the ship's systems. She had figured out how to overload their small engines to create impressive energy readings. To the aliens outside, it would look like the humans were charging up some kind of superweapon. "Commander," the Velthani weapons officer reported, "the human ship is powering up something big. Energy readings are off the charts." Veltar stared at his instruments in disbelief. The small human ship was generating more power than seemed possible. "Sir," another officer added, "we're also detecting multiple weapon systems coming online." Inside Pioneer 7, Kim was proud of his team. They had turned a peaceful exploration ship into what looked like a fortress. The aliens were now afraid to attack directly, giving the humans time to plan their next move. "Biol, how are our guests doing?" Kim asked. The medic checked the aliens they had captured. "They're all alive and will be fine in a few hours. But sir, I've been studying their biology. I think I understand how their technology works." "Explain." "Their equipment is designed for their specific brain patterns. But if we modify the settings, we might be able to use their weapons and communication devices." Kim grinned in the darkness. "Do it." Outside the ship, Commander Veltar was facing a problem he had never encountered before. 40 of his best soldiers had entered a small human vessel. 20 had come back out unconscious. 20 more were trapped inside with no radio contact. The humans had not killed anyone, but they had made it clear they were far more dangerous than expected. "What are your orders, sir?" his aide asked nervously. Veltar looked at the small human ship that had somehow become his worst nightmare. "Get me a direct line to High Command," he said quietly. "We have a problem." While Commander Veltar tried to explain his situation to Velthani High Command, the humans inside Pioneer 7 were busy learning everything they could about their captors. Private Choi Biol knelt beside one of the unconscious aliens in the ship's medical bay. She had studied alien biology at the academy, but this was her first chance to examine a living specimen. "Captain, this is amazing," she said over the internal radio. "Their muscle structure is completely different from ours. They're stronger, but they tire much faster, and their nervous system is very sensitive to certain chemical compounds." "What kind of compounds?" Kim asked from his position near the bridge. "The kind I can make from our medical supplies," Biol replied with a smile. "If we need to stop more of them, I can create something much more effective than what we used before." In the engine room, Corporal Yoon Hana was having her own discoveries. She had managed to remove several pieces of equipment from the captured Velthani soldiers. Their weapons, communication devices, and armor were spread across her workbench. "Sir, you need to see this," she called to Kim. "Their technology is incredible, but it has a major weakness." Kim made his way through the darkened corridors to the engine room. "What did you find?" Yoon held up a Velthani energy weapon. "Everything they build is connected to a central network. Each soldier's equipment talks to their ship's main computer. But the connection works both ways, meaning I can use their own equipment to hack into their ship's systems. I'm already getting data about their vessel's layout, crew numbers, and defensive capabilities." Kim looked at the alien weapon in her hands. "How many crew members do they have?" "Over 3,000, Yoon replied. "But sir, I found something else. This isn't just a warship. It's the command vessel for an entire invasion fleet." The captain felt his blood turn cold. "How big is the fleet?" "According to their databases, they have over 200 ships spread across this region of space. They're planning to attack 12 human colonies simultaneously." While Yoon worked on the alien technology, Sergeant Lee Jiwoo was conducting her own intelligence operation. She had managed to tap into the Velthani communication network and was listening to conversations throughout their ship. "Captain, they're in complete confusion," she reported. "Their commander is trying to explain to his superiors how 5 humans disabled 40 of their soldiers. The High Command doesn't believe him. What are they saying exactly? Kim asked. Lee adjusted her equipment to get a clearer signal. The alien commander keeps insisting that we're much more dangerous than they expected, but his superiors think he's making excuses for his failure. They're sending reinforcements, but they still think we're primitive. Lieutenant Park Min-ho was using the ship's navigation systems to map the alien vessel's structure. By analyzing the footsteps and movement patterns he could detect through the hull, he was creating a detailed layout of their captor's ship. Sir, I think I've found their command center, Park announced. It's about 300 meters from here near what looks like their main engine room. Kim studied the rough map Park had created. What about their weapon systems? Spread throughout the ship, but there are 2 main control centers. One near the front, one near the back. The captain made a decision that would have seemed impossible to any outside observer. They were 5 humans trapped inside an alien warship with over 3,000 enemies. The logical thing to do would be to hide and hope for rescue. Instead, Kim decided to go on the attack. Listen, everyone, he said over the internal radio. We've learned a lot about these aliens in the past few hours. They're stronger than us, they have better weapons, and they outnumber us by hundreds to 1. That doesn't sound encouraging, sir, Park muttered. But, Kim continued, they have weaknesses. They tire quickly. Their technology can be turned against them, and most importantly, they don't understand how humans think. What's the plan? Bayal asked. We're going to do something they won't expect. We're going to attack their ship. For a moment, the radio was silent. Sir, Yoon said carefully, did you say attack? As in leave our ship and go into theirs? That's exactly what I said. Yoon, can you use their equipment to disable sections of their ship? Probably. Their central computer controls everything from lights to life support. If I can get into their system fully, I could cause all kinds of problems. Bayal, can you make something that will keep their soldiers from fighting effectively? Already working on it, sir. I'm creating aerosol compounds that will make them confused and weak. Nothing permanent, but very effective. Lee, can you disrupt their communications? I'm already inside their network. I can make them hear whatever we want them to hear. Park, can you pilot our ship inside their docking bay? Sir, are you thinking of ramming them? Something like that. But first we need to gather more intelligence. Kim looked at the unconscious aliens in their medical bay. It's time to wake up our guests and have a conversation. Bayal prepared a stimulant that would revive the aliens safely. As the first Velthani soldier opened his large black eyes, he found himself looking at 5 humans who should have been his prisoners. Hello, Kim said in a calm voice. We need to talk. The alien tried to reach for a weapon that was no longer there. Kim had made sure all their equipment was removed. Don't be afraid, Kim continued. We're not going to hurt you. We just want information. The Velthani soldier stared at him with confusion and growing fear. In his culture, captured enemies were usually killed or enslaved. These humans had defeated his entire squad but were treating their prisoners with care. You speak our language? The alien asked in surprise. We're quick learners, Kim replied. Now tell me about your invasion plan. Over the next hour, the humans questioned several of their prisoners. The aliens were so confused by the gentle treatment that many of them answered questions without thinking. Kim learned that the Velthani Empire had been planning the invasion for 2 years. They had sent scout ships to observe human colonies and decided that humans were weak and easily conquered. The aliens had never encountered human military forces, only civilian populations. They think all humans are like the colonists and traders they've seen, Kim explained to his team. They have no idea that we have military training. So they're expecting easy victories, Lee said. Exactly. And that gives us a huge advantage. Kim looked at his team with pride. In just a few hours, they had turned from prisoners into intelligence operatives. They now knew more about the alien invasion than the aliens knew about human defenses. Sir, Yoon interrupted, I'm getting some interesting data from their computer system. It looks like this ship communicates with their entire fleet on a regular schedule. When is the next communication? In about 3 hours, Kim smiled. Perfect. That gives us time to prepare a very special message. Captain Kim Dae-ho stood in the modified engine room of Pioneer 7, surrounded by alien technology and the organized chaos of his team's preparations. 18 hours had passed since their capture, and the Velthani were about to learn that humans were full of surprises. Status report, Kim ordered. Corporal Yoon Hana looked up from a complex array of alien and human technology she had connected together. Sir, I've completely mapped their ship's systems. I can control their lights, gravity, life support, and even their weapon targeting systems. Excellent. Biol? Private Choi Biol held up several small devices that looked like breathing masks. I've created targeted compounds for different areas of their ship. The command crew will experience severe dizziness and confusion. The engine room crew will fall asleep. The weapons crew will have temporary paralysis in their hands. They won't die? Kim asked. No, sir. Everything will wear off in a few hours, but they'll be completely unable to fight. Sergeant Lee Ji-woo was monitoring alien communications from her station. Sir, their commander is getting very frustrated. He's been trying to explain to his superiors for hours that we're not normal prisoners. What are they saying? The high command thinks he's incompetent. They're threatening to replace him if he can't handle 5 humans. Lieutenant Park Min-ho was running final checks on their ship's systems. Sir, I've plotted our course through their vessel. It's going to be tight, but I can fly us through their main corridors if Yoon can keep their defensive systems offline. Kim nodded. What they were about to attempt was impossible by any reasonable standard. 5 humans were going to attack a ship carrying over 3,000 aliens. But Kim had learned something important during his 20 years as a scout. Reasonable standards didn't apply to humans. Remember, everyone, we're not trying to destroy their ship, Kim reminded his team. We want to disable it and gather as much intelligence as possible. The information we send back to human space could save millions of lives. Sir, Lee interrupted, I'm detecting movement outside our ship. It looks like they're bringing in heavy equipment. Kim walked to the view screen and saw Velthani soldiers setting up what looked like a massive cutting device. They're going to try to slice our ship open. Should we stop them? Park asked. Kim smiled. No, let them cut a hole. We'll use it. 20 minutes later, the aliens finished cutting a large opening in Pioneer 7's hull. Commander Veltar watched from a safe distance as his soldiers prepared to flood the human ship with paralysis gas. This time we take no chances, he told his aide. Gas them unconscious, then drag them out. But when the gas cleared and the soldiers entered through the hole, they found the ship empty except for the alien prisoners the humans had left behind, all neatly arranged and unharmed. Where are they? Veltar demanded. That was when the lights went out throughout his entire ship. The 5 humans had used the hole the aliens cut as an exit point. While the Velthani were focused on their ship, Kim's team had slipped out and begun moving through the enemy vessel's ventilation system. Yoon was the first to reach her target. The alien ship's main computer core was located deep in the vessel's center, protected by multiple security systems. But she had been studying Velthani technology for hours and knew exactly how to bypass their defenses. I'm in, she whispered into her radio, taking control of their primary systems now. Throughout the ship, Velthani crew members watched in confusion as their equipment began malfunctioning. Lights flickered on and off randomly. Gravity shifted from normal to 0 and back again. Communication systems played strange music instead of carrying voices. In the command center, Biol had reached her target. She released her carefully crafted compounds into the air system, adjusted for each specific area of the ship. Within minutes, the most important Velthani officers were too dizzy and confused to give coherent orders. Lee had found her way to the main communication array. She began broadcasting false messages throughout the Velthani fleet, creating confusion and misdirection that would spread far beyond this single ship. Park and Kim worked together to reach the ship's main weapon control center. The aliens had powerful guns that could destroy planets, but those weapons were useless if no one could operate them. Sir, I'm seeing something incredible, Park whispered as they crawled through a maintenance tunnel. Their weapon systems are completely automated. One person could control all of them from a single station. Could you operate them? Kim asked. With Yoon's help? Probably. Meanwhile, Commander Veltar was experiencing the worst day of his long military career. His ship was falling apart around him. His crew was incapacitated by mysterious illnesses, and 5 humans were somehow running loose inside his vessel. Get me a damage report, he ordered his aide, who was swaying on his feet and looking very sick. Sir, we have reports of system failures on every level. Engineering says the humans have taken control of our main computer. Medical says there are unknown chemical agents in our air supply. Security reports that our prisoners have escaped and are somewhere inside the ship. Veltar felt a moment of real fear. In all his years of conquest, he had never faced enemies like these. How could 5 primitive humans cause such chaos? Sir, his communications officer called out weakly. "We're getting strange signals from the human colonies. It sounds like their military ships are responding to some kind of emergency call." "What emergency call?" Veltar demanded. But before anyone could answer, the ship's main weapons turned toward the Velthani fleet and began charging up for firing. Kim and Park had reached the weapon control center and found it surprisingly easy to operate. The aliens had made their systems very user-friendly, assuming that only Velthani would ever use them. "Sir, I have control of their main guns," Park reported. "I could target their own fleet if you want." "No," Kim replied. "We're not murderers, but make sure they know we could if we wanted to." Throughout the alien fleet, ship commanders watched in horror as their flagship's weapons aimed at them. The targeting systems locked onto a dozen different vessels before moving on to others. The message was clear. The humans could destroy the entire fleet if they chose to. "This is impossible," Grand Admiral Kethvor said from his command ship. He had been monitoring the situation and could not believe what he was seeing. "How are 5 humans controlling our most advanced battleship?" "Sir, should we fire on our own vessel to stop them?" one of his officers asked. "And kill 3,000 of our own people?" "Never." Back on the captured ship, Kim's team was completing their mission. They had gathered complete information about the alien invasion plan, disabled the enemy flagship, and demonstrated human capabilities in a way that would terrify the entire Velthani Empire. "Sir," Lee reported, "I've successfully transmitted all the intelligence data to human space. Our colonies will have advance warning of the invasion. Yoon, can you keep their ship disabled? For as long as you want, sir. I've changed all their command codes. They can't override my control without completely rebuilding their computer system." Kim looked around the alien command center they had captured. A few hours ago, they had been prisoners facing certain death. Now they controlled one of the most powerful warships in the galaxy. "Attention, Velthani fleet," Kim said into the ship's main communication system. "This is Captain Kim Dae-ho of the human scout vessel Pioneer 7. We have taken control of your flagship. We could destroy your entire fleet, but we choose not to. However, I suggest you listen very carefully to what I'm about to tell you about human military capabilities." Grand Admiral Kethvor stared at his communication screen in disbelief. The human speaking from his flagship looked calm and confident, not like someone who should be terrified of the massive alien fleet surrounding him. "You must be joking," Kethvor said into the communication system. 5 humans cannot control a Velthani battleship." Captain Kim Dae-ho smiled from the alien command center. Behind him, Corporal Yoon Hana was working at multiple control stations while the rest of his team monitored different systems throughout the ship. "Would you like a demonstration?" Kim asked politely. Without waiting for an answer, he nodded to Yoon. The young engineer's fingers moved across the alien controls, and suddenly every ship in the Velthani fleet lost power to their main engines simultaneously. 200 warships, each larger than most human cities, drifted helplessly in space for 30 seconds before Yoon restored their power. "How is this possible?" Kethvor whispered. "Admiral," Kim said, his voice carrying clearly across the fleet. "Communication system. I think there's been a serious misunderstanding. Your empire has made invasion plans based on incomplete information about humanity. Impossible. We studied your species for 2 years. We observed your colonies, your trade ships, your civilian populations. Humans are weak and primitive." Kim laughed, and the sound sent chills through every alien officer listening. "You studied our civilians. You never encountered our military." "There is no difference," Kethvor insisted. "All humans are the same." "Really?" Kim gestured to Lieutenant Park Minho, who was now controlling the captured ship's navigation systems. "Park, show the Admiral what a human pilot can do." The massive Velthani battleship suddenly began moving through the fleet formation like a dancer. It spun, twisted, and weaved between other vessels with impossible grace and precision. The aliens watched in terror as their flagship performed maneuvers that should have been impossible for such a large vessel. "Stop!" Kethvor commanded. "You'll crash into other ships." But Park's flying was perfect. The battleship moved through the fleet formation without touching a single other vessel, even though the spaces between ships were barely larger than the ship itself. "Now," Kim continued, "let me tell you what you don't understand about humans. The people you observed in our colonies, those are farmers, Scientists, teachers, and families. They build homes and grow food and raise children. He paused to let that sink in. But we also have soldiers, pilots, engineers, and scouts. We have people trained specifically for war. And Admiral, what you captured was not a group of helpless colonists. You captured a military scout team. Sergeant Lee Jiwoo had been listening to communications throughout the alien fleet. Sir, they're having a lot of discussions about what this means. What are they saying? Kim asked. They're starting to understand that their intelligence about humans was completely wrong. Several ship commanders are asking if all human scout teams are this dangerous. Kim smiled again. Lee, open a channel to the entire fleet. When the communication system activated, Kim's voice reached every ship in the Velthani Armada. Attention Velthani Empire. I am Captain Kim Dae-ho, commander of a basic human scout team. We are not elite soldiers. We are not special forces. We are ordinary military scouts trained for exploration and reconnaissance. He let that information settle before continuing. In human space, there are thousands of teams like mine. We also have actual combat units, battle fleets, and specialized military forces that would make my team look like children playing games. Throughout the alien fleet, officers were running calculations and reviewing their invasion plans with growing horror. Sir, one of Kethvor's advisors said quietly, if their basic scouts can do this, what could their actual military do to us? Kethvor didn't answer. He was thinking about the same question. Private Choi Biol had been studying the captured Velthani crew members and learning more about their biology and psychology. Captain, she reported, I think I understand something important about these aliens. What is it? They're not naturally warriors. Their empire expanded by conquering species that were weaker than them. They've never had to fight anyone who could really fight back. Kim considered this. That explains why they expected easy victories. Yes, sir, and it also explains why they're so shocked by what we've done. In their experience, the stronger force always wins quickly. Meanwhile, Commander Veltar had finally managed to regain some control over his ship's internal systems. He was trying to organize his remaining crew members to retake their vessel. Sir, one of his officers reported, the humans are in our command center, but they've left most of our crew unharmed. They could have killed everyone, but they chose not to. Why would they show mercy? Veltar asked, confused. I don't know, sir. It's not logical from a military standpoint. But Kim had a very clear reason for avoiding unnecessary casualties. He was not trying to win a battle. He was trying to prevent a war. Admiral Kethvor, he said over the communication system. Let me explain something else about humans. We don't enjoy killing. When possible, we prefer to avoid violence entirely. Then why are you so good at it? Kethvor asked. Because sometimes, violence is necessary to protect the people we care about. Your empire planned to invade our colonies and enslave our families. That made you our enemies. But now that you understand the truth about human capabilities, perhaps we can avoid unnecessary bloodshed. Kim paused, then continued with a more serious tone. I'm going to be very clear about something, Admiral. My team has gathered complete intelligence about your invasion plan. This information has already been transmitted to Human Military Command. They now know exactly where your ships are, how many forces you have, and when you planned to attack. Throughout the Velthani fleet, the implications of this statement began to sink in. Furthermore, Kim continued, they know that you underestimated human military capabilities. Do you understand what this means? Grand Admiral Kethvor felt his confidence crumbling. Enlighten me. It means that instead of the easy conquest you planned, you are now facing a prepared enemy who knows you're coming. Human battle fleets are already moving to defend our colonies. Our military has had time to set traps and prepare defenses. Kim's voice became harder. But more importantly, Admiral, you have revealed to humanity that your empire sees us as prey. That makes you a threat that must be eliminated. The communication channel fell silent. Every alien officer in the fleet was contemplating the same terrible realization. Their invasion plan had not only failed, it had turned them from hunters into hunted. What do you want from us? Kethvor asked finally. I want you to understand that humans are not the primitive species you thought we were. I want you to take that information back to your empire. And I want your leaders to think very carefully about whether they really want to go to war with humanity. Kim looked around the alien command center that his team had captured. Because, Admiral, if you choose to continue this invasion, you won't be fighting surprised colonists. You'll be fighting people like us. The Velthani High Council chamber had been built to intimidate visitors. Massive stone walls covered with the banners of conquered worlds stretched up toward a ceiling lost in shadows. At the center sat 5 elderly aliens who had ruled the Empire for over 2 centuries. Grand Admiral Kethvor stood before them, still wearing his battle armor from the failed encounter with the humans. He had never felt smaller in his entire life. "Explain yourself," commanded Supreme Chancellor Velthera, the eldest member of the council. "Your report makes no sense." "Honored Chancellor, every word I have transmitted is accurate. 5 humans captured our flagship and held it for 6 hours. They demonstrated complete control over our most advanced systems and could have destroyed our entire fleet." The council members looked at each other with expressions of disbelief and growing concern. 5 humans, repeated Chancellor Mortak slowly. "Against a crew of 3,000? "Yes, honored Chancellor." "Impossible," declared Chancellor Zektor. "We have studied this species extensively. They are primitive and weak." Kethvor activated a holographic display that showed the battle recordings from his ship. The council watched in silence as human scout team moved through the Velthani vessel like ghosts, disabling security systems and incapacitating trained soldiers. "This must be some kind of deception," Chancellor Yelnara said uncertainly. "I thought so too," Kethvor replied. "So I had our intelligence division review all previous encounters with humans. We discovered something troubling. The holographic display changed to show data files and surveillance recordings. Every human we have observed was a civilian. Colonists, traders, explorers, scientists. We never encountered their military personnel." "All species have military forces," Chancellor Velthara said dismissively. "They cannot be that different from their civilians." "With respect, honored Chancellor, that appears to be incorrect." The human captain explained that their society has specialized roles. Some humans are trained specifically for warfare, while others focus on peaceful activities. The council fell silent as they considered this information. "Are you saying," Chancellor Mortak asked slowly, "that we have been planning to invade a species based on observations of their weakest members?" "That is exactly what I am saying, honored Chancellor." Chancellor Zektor stood up angrily. "This is ridiculous. No species can be that different from what we observed. Show us proof." Kethvor activated another recording. This one showed Captain Kim Deho speaking directly to the Velthani fleet from their captured command center. "Attention, Velthani Empire." Kim's voice filled the council chamber. "You have made a serious mistake. Your intelligence gathering observed only our civilian population. What you encountered today was a basic military scout team. We are not elite forces. We are ordinary soldiers." The recording continued with Kim's calm explanation of human military capabilities and his warning about the consequences of continuing the invasion. Furthermore, Kim's voice said, "Your invasion fleet is now completely known to human command. We have transmitted your positions, fleet composition, and planned targets. Human military forces are already responding." When the recording ended, the council chamber was completely silent. "How many ships did we lose?" Chancellor Velthara asked quietly. "None, honored Chancellor. The humans could have destroyed our entire fleet, but they chose not to. They returned our flagship and released our crew unharmed. Why would they show such mercy?" The human captain said they prefer to avoid unnecessary killing when possible. But he also made it clear that they would destroy us completely if we continued to threaten their colonies. Chancellor Yelnara was studying the tactical displays with growing alarm. "Admiral, what is your assessment of human military capabilities based on this encounter?" Kethvor had been dreading this question. "Honored Chancellor, if their basic scout teams can disable our best warship, I estimate that actual human military forces would be..." He paused, searching for the right words. "Speak plainly, Admiral." "They would destroy us completely, honored Chancellor. Our entire invasion plan was based on the assumption that humans were helpless prey. Instead, we have provoked a predator species that was previously unaware of our existence." The weight of this revelation settled over the council like a heavy blanket. "What do you recommend?" Chancellor Mortak asked. Immediate withdrawal from all human territory, Kethvor replied without hesitation. Complete cancellation of the invasion plan. And perhaps most importantly, we should consider opening diplomatic relations to ensure we are never seen as a threat again. Chancellor Zektor was still struggling to accept what he had heard. You are suggesting we abandon 2 years of planning because of 5 humans? I am suggesting we abandon 2 years of planning because those 5 humans revealed that our entire understanding of their species was completely wrong. At that moment, a communication officer burst into the council chamber. Such interruptions were normally punishable by death, but the young alien's terrified expression suggested urgent news. Honored Chancellors, we are receiving communications from the border regions. Human warships have been detected moving toward our territory. The council members exchanged worried looks. How many ships? Chancellor Velthara demanded. We don't know, Honored Chancellor. Our border scouts report that human vessels appeared simultaneously at 17 different locations along our frontier. They seem to know exactly where all our listening posts and patrol routes are located. Kethvor closed his eyes. This was exactly what the human captain had warned them about. The humans are demonstrating that they now have complete intelligence about our military positions, he explained to the council. They want us to understand that our secrecy and element of surprise are gone. Are they attacking? Chancellor Mortak asked. No, Honored Chancellor, the communication officer replied. They are just waiting. But sir, our scouts report that these are not exploration vessels like we observed before. These are clearly military ships, and they are much larger and more advanced than anything in our databases. Supreme Chancellor Velthara stood up slowly. She had ruled the Veltani Empire for over a century, and had never faced a situation like this. Admiral Kethvor, she said formally, you have our permission to establish communication with the human military forces. Find out what they want. 20 minutes later, the council chamber's main communication screen activated. The image showed a middle-aged human woman in a dark blue uniform, speaking from what appeared to be the bridge of a massive warship. I am Admiral Sarah Chen, commander of the Human Defense Fleet's 3rd Battle Group. I am authorized to speak on behalf of humanity regarding your recent hostile actions in our territory. Chancellor Velthara stepped forward. I am Supreme Chancellor Velthara of the Velthani Empire. We may have made some mistakes regarding our understanding of your species. Admiral Chen's expression did not change. You plan to invade 12 of our colonies and enslave our people. Captain Kim Daeho's scout team provided us with complete details of your invasion plan. Yes, we realize now that our intelligence was inadequate. Your intelligence was not inadequate, Admiral Chen replied coldly. Your intelligence was deliberately focused on our civilian population, while ignoring our military capabilities. This suggests a predatory species that prefers to attack defenseless targets. The Velthani council members shifted uncomfortably. The humans' assessment was accurate and deeply insulting. We are prepared to call off the invasion, Chancellor Velthara said quickly. The invasion was called off the moment Captain Kim transmitted his intelligence report, Admiral Chen replied. Your fleet is now surrounded and outnumbered. Your invasion routes are blocked. Your military positions are known to us. The question is not whether you will call off your invasion. The question is what we should do about an aggressive empire that sees humanity as prey. The council chamber fell silent. They were no longer making demands or negotiating from a position of strength. They were hoping to avoid complete destruction. What do you want from us? Chancellor Velthara asked quietly. First, complete withdrawal of all Veltani forces from human territory. Second, full disclosure of your military capabilities and territorial boundaries. Third, formal recognition that humanity is not a species to be conquered or enslaved. Admiral Chen paused, then continued. And fourth, you will understand that Captain Kim's scout team represents the minimum level of human military competence. They are not special forces or elite units. They are ordinary scouts. If you ever threaten humanity again, you will face our actual military forces. And if we agree to these terms, Chancellor Mortak asked, then humanity will have no quarrel with the Velthani Empire. We are not a conquest species like you appear to be. We prefer peace when possible. Chancellor Velthara looked around at her fellow council members. The choice was clear. Accept the human terms or face a war they could not possibly win. We accept, she said. Excellent. You have 72 hours to begin withdrawal from human space. Admiral Kethvor will coordinate the details with our military commanders. The communication ended, leaving the Velthani Council in stunned silence. That was just a human scout team? Chancellor Zector asked weakly. Kethvor nodded. 5 ordinary humans with basic military training. And they completely destroyed our invasion plan, captured our flagship, and forced our empire to surrender without firing a shot. Supreme Chancellor Velthara sat down heavily. How did we make such a terrible mistake? We assumed all humans were the same, Kethvor replied. We never considered that they might have specialized military personnel who were completely different from their civilian population. And now? Now we know that humanity has military forces that make our best soldiers look like children, and they know that we exist and we're planning to attack them. The council sat in contemplative silence for several minutes. Perhaps, Chancellor Yelnara said finally, we should reconsider our entire approach to expansion. If we can make such a serious mistake about humans, what other species have we underestimated? A wise question, Chancellor Velthara agreed. Admiral, prepare a full report on this incident. I want every military commander in our empire to understand exactly how 5 humans defeated our invasion fleet. What should the report be titled, honored Chancellor? Chancellor Velthara thought for a moment, then smiled grimly. Title it, That Was Just a Human Scout Team, a study in intelligence failures and the dangers of underestimating your enemy. As the council members filed out of the chamber, each was thinking the same thing. The Velthani Empire had just learned that the universe was a much more dangerous place than they had realized, and somewhere in human space, Captain Kim Dae-ho and his scout team were writing their mission report, completely unaware that they had single-handedly prevented a galactic war and forced one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy to reconsider everything they thought they knew about conquest and warfare. The universe was indeed full of surprises. And sometimes the biggest surprises came in very small packages.